Why would you go through the stress of padding every outfit you make? Spend your time and resources when you can make this easy padded short that can be worn under your outfit. This short is very versatile and it is very easy to make. Welcome to the channel, guys. This is Precious Styling. To all my returning subscribers, thank you for always stopping by, and to my new viewers, you're welcome to the family. So in this tutorial, I'll be showing you how to make this easy padded short that can be worn under your outfit to accentuate your hip and your butt. So without delay, let's get right into the tutorial for the day. As you can see, I have ruled my starting line, which represents my waistline as well. So from that point of our waistline, I'm going to be going down to mark my hip depth. So my hip depth is 9 inches. I'm just going to mark that point there. I would go down to mark my crotch depth. So my crotch depth is 11 inches. I marked that. I would go down to mark my waist to thigh measurement, and that is at 15 inches. And finally, I'm going to go down to mark my waist to the hem of the shorts at 18 inches. I would go ahead and mark those vertical measurements on the other side of my pattern paper and rule lines to connect both points. We would proceed to the next stage, where we'll take our horizontal measurement. First of all, you determine how many inches you want to add to your hip. Okay, so I want to add 4 inches to my hip circumference. So if my hip circumference is 40 plus 4 is 44 inches, and 44 inches divided by 4 would be 11 inches. So you would mark that on the waistline. So I'll just be labeling all the key points on the pattern. This right here is my waistline. This right here is my hip line. This right here is my crotch line. This right here is my upper thigh or under butt. Okay, so we're going to be having 2 thigh points. One is the upper thigh and the other is the lower thigh, which doubles as our hemline. On the hip line, I'm going to mark that same measurement I marked on the waistline to the hip line. I'm also going to mark the same hip circumference divided by 4 on the crotch line. Now I'll be connecting those 3 points in a straight line. So guys, on this crotch line, we're going to be extending it to our crotch extension. So how do you know your crotch extension? You divide your total hip circumference divided by 16. So when I divide 44 divided by 16, I have 2.75 inches. So that is going to be my crotch extension. So I'm going to extend that crotch line to that 2.75 inches that we marked. At the waistline here, I'm going to be coming in by 0.5 inch so that that area of the waist is well relaxed. And at this right angle of the crotch extension, I'm going to be coming out by 1.25 inches, and then I would be connecting that point to the 0.5 inch at the waist and to the edge of the crotch extension. I would come back to the waist, and from this inward line now, I'm going to be measuring my waist circumference divided by 4. So I'll divide that and I'm going to mark that on the waistline, and then I would add my stitching allowance to that. Now that I've done that, I'll be connecting that to my hip line. So guys, we're going to be dividing this crotch line into 2 equal parts. That comprises of the crotch and even the crotch extension. Okay, so I'm just measuring what I have there, and I'm going to be dividing that into 2, and I'll mark that midpoint there. And I'll be transferring the same measurements to the upper thigh, and I'll be ruling a line from the crotch up to the hem. Now this vertical line that we ruled is going to help us with accuracy when we want to divide our circumferential body measurements. Remember that we have 2 thigh measurements, the upper and the lower thigh. Now the upper thigh is usually more bigger or rounder than the lower thigh. Okay, so right now we're going to be dividing our upper thigh circumference divided by 4. So my upper thigh circumference is 24 inches, and if we divide that by 4, we're going to get 6 inches. So we're going to mark 6 inches on either side of the vertical line. I'll be adding 0.5 inch for seam allowance on either side of the 6 inches. At the lower thigh, I'm going to be dividing my lower thigh circumference divided by 4. My lower thigh circumference is 21 inches. So 21 inches divided by 4 is 10.5 inches. So with that 10.5 inch mark, I'll just fold my tape and get the midpoint, and then I'll just be marking it on either sides of this vertical line. And I'm also going to add my 0.5 inch allowance for seam. With that being said, I'll be connecting the crotch to the point I marked on the thighs. And with this, we're done drafting the front pattern of the shorts. I'll go ahead and cut this out. Once we're done with cutting this out, we're going to head to the back pattern to draft. I already put my front pattern on my pattern paper, and we're going to be making some modifications to this front pattern in order to draft our back pattern. Okay, this is easy. So right now at this crotch line, I'm going to be extending that line outwards. Okay, what I'm basically just doing is just trying to replicate the lines of the front pattern on the back pattern paper. So after doing this, I'm also going to extend the vertical line of the waist upwards. Okay, so I'm just going to do that. At the crotch line, I'm going to be coming out by 2.5 inches because the back crotch is usually lengthier than the front crotch. If you are on the big side, you can even extend it up to 3 inches. If you're on the small side, 1.5 inches to 2 inches will do. So this varies. At the vertical line we extended upwards from the waist, I'm going to be coming up by 1.5 inches. From this point we just marked now, I'm going to be coming in by 1.5 inches. So right now we're going to be connecting this new point we marked to the new back crotch extension. So I'll be taking off my front pattern for now so I can connect these points together, and I'll be using my curved ruler to create this curve. I would be measuring my front waistline, and whatever measurement I have there, I'm going to be placing it at the peak of the back vertical extension, and I'm going to be measuring it to anywhere it falls on the front waistline. And so from this waistline of the back, I'm going to be measuring it to the back vertical extension. Okay, I'll just roll a slant line, and thereafter I'll be connecting this point to the hip line. Still adjusting the front pattern to the back pattern, I'm going to be connecting the back crotch extension to the upper thigh using the front pattern as a guide. You can do this by freehand, but I'm just going to use my curved ruler to do this. And then you can use the outline of the front to cut out the back pattern. So I'm just going to be tracing the outline of the front pattern on the back pattern as well, and then I'll take off the front pattern and connect the hem of the back pattern with the help of my ruler. So if you want, you can still go ahead and mark out the key points on the pattern so you can easily identify them. And with this, we're done with the drafting of the back pattern. So I will go ahead and cut out the back pattern. And so this is our back pattern. Before we go ahead to the next stage, you want to cut out your pattern on your fabric. Okay, so just make sure you cut out your pattern before you modify this pattern further. So at the waistline, I'm going to come down by 2 inches, and from the hemline I'm going to go up by 1 inch, and at the hip line I'm going to come out by 5 inches. And so I'll be connecting these 3 points, point A, point B, point C, using the help of my curved ruler. Ensure you put direction marks, because at some point you may begin to mix up the pattern and then would cut this out. For the back pattern, you are going to come down from the waistline by 2 inches. I'll just mark that 2 inches there. Then at the hemline, you are going to come up by 1 inch, and at the hip line, you are going to come in by 2 inches. All right, and so you'll be connecting these 3 areas together. You are going to be blending it out in the way that the bot naturally contours. Okay, I'll use my pencil to trace this out first, and I'll be following it up with my marker to make it bolder. Remember to still make notations to this pattern even as you cut it out. So these are the materials I'll be using for this project. I have my fiber here, I have my foam here. So the thickness of this foam measures a little below 1/8 inches. So I'll be doing something to this foam later on because it's not up to the width of the hip addition we want to do. So I have my hairstay here, and I also have my zipper here. I have cut out the pad pattern on my foam. So guys, this foam comes in different levels of thickness. You'll find different types in the market. There are some that are just 1 inch, there are some that are 0.5 inch thickness, and so on. But because this my own is very flat, I had to cut multiple pieces of this because I am going to be gluing them down. So for each piece I cut about 6 pads, okay, so that it can be up to 1 inch. Since we are increasing our hip circumference with 4 inches, it means that each of these patterns would have at least 1 inch thickness to go around. Okay, so I just did that, and I'll be using this glue to glue the foam one on top of another. So I'm just going to place the glue. It's just a simple way of joining these pieces together. You place the glue and then you place the foam on top of it, and then you just hold it down so that it stays in place, and then you leave it to dry. So I'm just going to do this for the 6 foams each that I have, and then I'm going to leave it to dry and come back and show you what I did. I have glued the foam together, and this is how it looks like. Now look at the thickness I have. I have about 1 inch thickness, and that would just do for the hip addition. All right, we are going to be trimming this foam at the side that is nearer to the crotch. We are not going to be touching the side that is by the side of the hip because we need fullness there, but we're going to be thinning out the sides that are closer to the crotch so that there is no bulginess or there is no bulk at that area. So just be patient and use your scissors and then just trim out the sides till they are very flat. I'm going to be doing this for the front and back, and I'll show you what I did. I have finished trimming the front pad, and look how thin it is. You can see how I trimmed it, and now it's now so thin. So this is a very crucial part. If you do not do this part well, you are going to be having an irregular hip shape. This is the part of the back that will be trimmed. After trimming the back pad, this is how it is. It is now very flat. So right now I'm going to be making notations on the pad. I'll just write U and D to represent up and down so that I don't mistake anything. I have my fiber here and I'll be folding it over. I would place my pad on it so I could have a double cut, and I'll just cut out the pad on the fiber. Because this fiber is thick, I would be splitting the fiber in two, and I'll be placing one part of the fiber on top of the pad and the other part of the fiber underneath the pad. In other words, I'll be sandwiching the pad in between the fiber. Now I'll take our hairstay and I'm going to use this hairstay to envelope this whole ensemble. Like, I'm going to be placing the part of the hairstay that has the glue on top of the foam and the fiber. Okay, so I'm just going to do this, and then I'll be using my hot iron to activate the glue on the hairstay. And when I flip this to the front, I would use the same hairstay to envelope this fiber, and I'm still going to use my hot iron to activate the glue, and then I'll just seal it up. You can now see that the pad is completely covered up, so I will just be taking my scissors and trimming out all those excess hairstay there. Now when cutting away the hairstay, ensure you leave about 0.5 inch at the sides of the pad, because that will come in handy later on. Can you see how these butt pads look like now with the 0.5 inch at the side? Yes, so right now I'll just be arranging these butt pads the way they ought to be, and I'll be taking it to my sewing machine to stitch it up. This is the front pattern, and I have cut out 4 pieces of this. 2 is going to be for the main fabric and 2 is going to be for the lining. This fabric is not so stretchy. It is crepe fabric, but it doesn't really have stretch to it. I have placed the front and the back fabric side by side, and right now I'll be placing the sides of these fabrics together. I'll just pin it down and I'll take it to my sewing machine and stitch the sides up. And whatever I do for the main fabric, I'll be doing same for the lining. I stitched the sides backstage, and this is what I have. This right here is the back and this right here is the front, so I'm just marking it so you can easily identify them. Just like we came down by 2 inches from the waist when we're drafting the pattern, I'm going to come down by 2 inches from the waistline, and I'm going to be carrying my pad and pinning it on that 2-inch mark. Still, as we came up by 1 inch from the hem of the short, I'm going to mark 1 inch on the short, and I'm going to be placing the base of the pad on that 1 inch mark, and I'll be pinning this as well. I have flipped this piece over, and you can see that I am aligning the mid section of the pad to the seam of the short. Okay, so I'm just going to align it so that it's the seams tally with each other. I'm going to be doing lots of adjustments, lots of drags, so that everything is well curved and well knit. So guys, this would be the lining of the shorts. The main fabric, we're not putting the pad on the main fabric, so what you see me doing is I am working on the lining of the shorts. So I'll just pin, and then I'll show you the next process. I have pinned both sides of the pads, and this is how it looks like inside and outside. I will be taking this to my sewing machine and stitch around the sides of the pad, thereby joining the pad to the lining. I would also run a straight stitch across the middle seam of the pad. I have stitched the sides of the pad, and this is what I have. So guys, at this back side of the butt pad, I'm going to be aligning the region from the waist to the crotch together, because I'm trying to close it up. So first things first, I'm going to measure from the waist about 9 to 10 inches downwards, okay, because that is the area where I will be placing the zipper. So once I mark that region, I'm going to be sewing the remaining region. So from this part I marked, I'm just going to be stitching downwards while the remaining upper part will be left. That is where we'll put our zipper. So for the front area of the waist to crotch, I'm going to place the fabric side by side. I would pin this down, and I'm going to be stitching the area from the waist to the crotch. After stitching these areas I mentioned, we still have 2 areas that are not yet closed up, and that is the zipper area and the area underneath the crotch. So I'm going to be placing the base of the short side by side, and I'm going to just align everything, pin it down, and I'll be stitching from one end to the other. So for the main fabric, everything you did for the lining, you are also going to do for this main fabric. At this stage, I'll be attaching my zipper. So I'll first of all attach the zipper to the main fabric before incorporating the lining. I have attached the zipper and this is how it is. So I'm just going to cut out the excess. Let us assume that this is the right side of the fabric and this is the right side of the lining. So right now I'm going to flip both the lining and the fabric to the wrong side. This black side, let us assume that that is the wrong side. Okay, so once I do this, I am going to begin aligning the hem of both the fabric and the lining right sides facing each other. I don't know if you get me. So I will begin aligning the right sides to face each other. Okay, to face each other. I'll begin aligning that hem of the shorts now, both the fabric and the lining to each other, and I'll just pin it all around. I don't know if you get this illustration I did, but that is what I did. Now this is the practical illustration of what I was saying. Flip the fabric and the lining to the wrong side and align the hem right sides facing each other to each other. After pinning those areas, I stitched around the hem and this is what I have. You can see how this looks like, right? So I'm going to turn this right sides out. Now would look for a means of closing up the zipper neatly. Now this zipper can be closed in multiple ways. You can just bend in the lining of the zipper area and then just stitch on top of the zipper. But the downside of this is that your stitch is going to show on the outer fabric. I want to close up the zipper in an invisible way, so I'm going to bend the lining of this zipper area backwards so that it rests on the zipper. So I'll flip in one part of the pants inwards and I would align the zipper to the lining. Okay, this can be tricky, but you just find your way around it. But this will make it easier for you to sew the zipper in an invisible way. So guys, I have finished attaching the lining to the zipper and this is how it is. You can see how the insides look like. Matter of fact, the zip is sandwiched in between the main fabric and the lining, and this was what I was talking about, sewing it in an invisible way. All that is left now is just to turn in the raw edges of the waistline so we have a clean finish. I have a strip of fabric that measures about 2 inches wide and measures up to the length of the waistline. So I'm going to be placing this strip of fabric around the waistline and sewing it and just hemming it. That's all I will be doing. I'll be folding it twice so I have a clean finish. After stitching it, this is what I have. We're practically done making our shorts, and you can wear this under your garments to give you a fuller hip and butt. So guys, if you found this tutorial helpful, please give it a like. If you're here to subscribe to my channel, do well to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss out on future tutorials. There are so many tutorials I'm going to be bringing your way henceforth, so you want to do well to subscribe to the channel. Feel free to ask questions and share the video to whoever may need it within your community. Thank you guys for watching. I'll be seeing you in the next tutorial. Bye for now.